am Rebecca Davis, a weird, scary, and interesting. Today's topic we are going to be talking about today is, since it's technically a Mother's Day thing, but since we passed Mother's Day, and technically the last day of May, why not? Since last season, I did the mothers of the 50s TV. This time we're going to the next decade. So we're going to be talking about the mothers from the 60s TV. And in honor of that, I tried to replica the hippie fashion. Since we're talking about a little bit of the 60s, but moms from the 60s. Okay. Okay. I'll tell you a little bit of the stereotypes of what moms were expected to be in the 1960s. Okay. In the 1960s, the stereotypical mother was a happy homemaker, a devoted suburban stay-at-home mother who was entirely financially dependent on her husband, focused all her energy on raising children and maintaining a spotless home. This image was highly promoted by society, advertisers, and television. So you see a lot of TV shows that were from the 1960s decade that would show that type of thing. Just it's almost like we learned last season about the moms from the 1950s TV. The same idea that the idea that mothers would stay at home and look after the kids and clean the house and make supper, get that supper ready for their husbands when they're about to come through the door. Some of these moms from the 1950s TV you would have heard from, learned about in the video about mothers from the 50s TV. And there's some new ones that are from this decade. And some of the moms are a little bit different than, like, out of the norm. And we'll learn to see who is the oldest mother from this decade of the 1960s and who's the youngest. You'll be surprised at some of their ages. If there was an age, if their birth date was actually mentioned in the TV show, because it wasn't so easy to find their birth dates and where they were born. Uh, okay, let's start off, get into this, because we are going to learn about '18 mothers from the 60s TV. I think it's a little bit more than we had last season. Okay, let's get into it and learn about these 18 mothers from the 60s TV. Okay. First off, at number one is somebody we well know from the 50s TV, is June Cleaver. Yeah, we're starting off with June Cleaver. June Cleaver is a fictional mother that was from Leave It to Beaver. That was born on December 26th, Boxing Day, in 1916, as June Evelyn Bronson. June Cleaver is a principal character in the American television sitcom Leave It to Beaver. June is married to Ward Cleaver. June and her husband Ward are often in as the archetypical suburban parents of the 1960s. Just like I said for the 50s, since we're in a new decade in this, there's also suburban parents of the 1960s. The couple are the parents of two sons named Wally and Beaver. June Cleaver and her family in the TV series Leave It to Beaver, they live at 485 Mapleton Drive in Mayfield, a suburb of Los Angeles, California, USA. But the family moved to 211 Pine Street in Mayfield, suburb of Los Angeles, California, USA. June Cleaver was 41 years old when Leave It to Beaver started in 1957. She was 47 years old when Leave It to Beaver ended in 1963. So she was middle-aged when the show started and ended. So she wasn't quite into her 50s yet when the show ended. She was in her late 50s late 40s when the show ended, but in her early 40s when it started. So technically she's a middle-aged housewife. Okay. June Cleaver was played by Barbara Billingsley. and Jana Turner. Janine Turner. So, like, you'll see a lot of these moms where some of them has several actresses that play them, just like some of the fathers would have had several actors that play them over time. And probably over, if these TV shows, classic TV shows, ended up having a movie made about them, then there would be a totally different cast, because it depends on how many years it's been off, and if the original cast is still with us, and if they would like to reprise their role. Okay, move on. DeWard Cleaver was played by Hugh Bonton, Christopher McDonald, and Max Walter. But Max Walter played Ward Cleaver in It's a Small World. Looks like that Disney song, It's a Small World After All. Okay, let's go continue on. Wally Cleaver was played by Tony Dow, and Eric spelled with a K, Erik. Von Detten and Michael Edam. But Michael Edam played Wally in the movie Scrooged. Okay, let's move on to Beaver Cleaver. Hey, it rhymes. Was played by Jerry Mathers and Cameron Finley. Well, and also you see that sometimes they will recast a role in a TV series when it comes to certain predicaments of if there's tension on set, and they don't feel comfortable continuing, they'll just want to leave, and the producers would have to recast that role. Kind of like what we've seen with the 90s show The Fresh Prince, or what's another one that had recast their show? Everybody Loves Raymond. There's, in the original pilot, there's two different twins that plays Jeffrey and Matthew. Wrong. There's different reasons why that a character would get recast. And sometimes they just recast a role, maybe if the person passed away, but then sometimes they just kill the character off. Just like they did with Grandpa Walton on The Waltons when Will Gear died. So, okay. Okay, let's move on from June Cleaver to number 2, and it's Donna Stone. Donna Stone is a fictional mother that was born in the mid 20th century. She was from the Donna Reed show. Okay. Since she's a fictional mother from the Donna Reed show, and she was born in the mid 20th century. So, there's when I did for the since she's also from the 1950s, I couldn't find exactly what year she was born and what her maiden name is, so who knows. We will never know. Okay. Donna Reed is a middle-class housewife, and her pediatrician husband, Dr. Alex Stone, faced many adventures with their 2 teenage children, Mary and Jeff Stone. So, yeah, they have one of each, a boy and a girl. While they are living in a house at 4106 Oak Street in the fictional town of Forest Hills, California, USA. Okay. Since she's married to a pediatrician, since he's a baby doctor, he'd be bringing in pretty good money for this time frame. It probably, since we're in 2026 of this time of this recording, it'd probably be more. If you're watching in the future, probably maybe a pediatrician way in the future may bring in a lot more, but in the 1960s and 50s probably would have brought in pretty good money for that time frame. Okay, let's see who played the Stones family. And I thought it was a good idea, as I told you who played the Cleavers family, that it'd be a good idea for you to know, my viewers, that who played these families of these matriarchs. So, you know, unless you're a classic TV buff, then you probably would, you know. But for interesting sake, let's find out. But since Donna and a few of these are from the 1950s, is kind of like a review. Okay, let's for heaven's sakes, let's walk down memory lane. Donna Stone was played by Donna Reed, like the show is named after. the Donna Reed Show. You see a lot of that a lot of the main cast member has the show named after them. Whether they're a guy or a girl. Because the show's more or less centered around that one character, his life. Okay, let's see who played Donna's hubby. Donna's pediatrician hubby, Dr. Alex Stone, was played by Carl Bretz. And their daughter, Mary Stone, was played by Shirley Fabrice. And their son, Jeff Stone, was played by Paul Peterson on the Donna Reed Show. Some of these shows, classic shows, are probably on streaming channels now. So, like the Donna Reed Show. And probably Leave It to Beaver's on a streaming show. Yes, it is. I think I just added it today on Tubi. Okay. Now let's move on from Donna Stone to number 3. That is Margaret Anderson. Margaret Anderson is a fictional mother from Father Knows Best that was born on August 12th, 1910. I bet she was a little kid when the Titanic sunk in 1912. Because, yeah, she would have been 2 years old in 1912. Okay. Margaret Anderson is the voice of reason and equality. An equal partner in the family discussion and nurturing anchor who lovingly guided her and her husband, Jim Anderson's 3 children. Betty, James, nicknamed Bud Jr., Kathy, nicknamed Kitty Anderson. Through life's daily lessons, Margaret was the embodiment of neutral maternal ideal, often remembered for her calm demeanor, sound device, warm presence. So, she sounds like a lovely lady. Just like the other 3 we talked about. Okay. Margaret Anderson and her family lives at 607 South Maple Street in the fictional Midwestern town of Springfield, USA. Margaret Anderson was 47 years old when Leave It to Beaver first aired on October 4th, 1957. And she was 52 years old when Leave It to Beaver ended in June 20th, 1953. So, Margaret Anderson was a middle-aged mom, just like June Cleaver was a middle-aged mom. Because with Margaret being in her late 40s when Leave It to Beaver ended, and then she was in her late 40s when Leave It to Beaver started. This what it meant. And she was in her early 50s when it ended. Not quite in her 60s yet. She still has a few years ahead of herself before she ends up in her 60s yet. Okay, let's see who played the Andersons. Margaret Anderson was played by Jane Wyatt. And Jim Anderson, her husband, was played by Robert Young. Robert Young was in a lot of classic TV shows and movies. Betty Anderson was played by Eleanor Donahue. And James Bud Anderson Jr. was played by Billy Gray, and Kathy Kitten Anderson was played by Lorne Chapin. Okay. Okay. We're having a good start. Having three women that we know from the 50s TV that spanned into the 1960s. Because a lot of those classic TV shows had started in one decade and ended in another. Just like the Lady from Life of Riley, that show started in the 40s and ended in the 50s. Amazing how many shows that started in one decade and spanned into another decade. Just like there's some that started in the 1980s, which we'll probably explore one time, and ended in the 90s. But then there's some that started in one decade and still is going strong. Okay, let's move on from Margaret Anderson to another woman that show started in the 50s and ended in this decade, I think. Yeah. Okay. at is number 4 is Ruth Martin. Ruth Martin is a fictional mother from Lassie that was born on June 25th, 1925. So she was born in the roaring 20s as Ruth Lockhart. Ruth Martin became Timmy's adopted mom, so she's technically a fictional adopted mother. When Paul and her moved to the farm until they left Timmy and Lassie in the United States to go to Australia. Which I looked it up because I was curious why they deserted Timmy and Lassie in the United States to go to another country. Is because technically, I guess there was a stipulation that he wasn't. Okay, I have to look it up because I forgot. In the classic television series Lassie, the parents Ruth and Paul Martin moved to Australia for a new agricultural job. They couldn't bring Lassie because of Australia's strict 6-month rabies see if I get this word right. Quarantine laws. Yeah, because some countries have strict quarantine laws if you're bringing your dog, and I think maybe kitty cats, over because of mainly the rabies part. Okay, and this is why they had to leave poor Timmy behind, because me loving kids that's your kid. Why would you just desert him like that? Okay, and This is why. Timmy was a foster child, not legally adopted by them. Immigration laws prevent them from taking him. So he wasn't actually adopted, not illegally. There must have been some channels that not illegal channels the Martins must have went through that didn't make him their adopted child. So that's why they had to leave him in the United States, and he couldn't come with mom and dad to Australia. Him and especially Lassie, because of the whole 6 months rabies thing. Because there's we'll talk about her in a bit. Have you ever seen the Munsters? There's an episode on there where Grandpa turned himself into a werewolf. They had docked in England, and he turned himself into a werewolf by accident, thinking that it was his seasickness potion. And England, like Australia, has that quarantine thing, so somebody there told the Munster family you would have to leave your pet werewolf / grandpa behind for so long. So that's why they had. So in Lassie, that's why Timmy and Lassie couldn't go with Ruth and Paul Martin. The fictional Paul Martin, not to confuse with Canada's former Prime Minister Paul Martin. So yeah, if anybody was wondering why they would ditch the kid and the dog behind, I'm thinking, how cruel. Okay, anyways, so this little note says, I'm looking on Google, if you're wondering, for this. It says, because they couldn't take their son or their beloved dog, they made a heartbreaking decision to leave them in the United States. By the looks of it, I'm reading a little bit that he was later on adopted by the McGillicuddy family, where he began using the middle name Steve. And let's see what happened to Lassie, because after she got deserted. Well, it says, here, because putting Lassie in quarantine kennels for 6 months would have been traumatic for the dog. The Martins made the selfless choice to leave her behind in America. Okay, Lassie's new life. Lassie was internally left with a neighbor, Collie Wilson, when Collie suffered a heart attack. Lassie transferred to forest ranger Corey Stewart, successfully shift the show's premise from the family farm to life in the wilderness adventures. With that, it made the show drastically different, with separating Timmy and the dog. I know some people say that with that it would dramatize the kid more, but most kids, I bet he would have, like most kids would have, he probably would have just got used to it, roll with the punches, and because think of it, most foster kids, they do drift between home to home to home, till eventually they find their forever home. I hear that word forever home for pets, but it's good to say that for foster children. So in the end, Timmy and Lassie, since the Martins ditched them in America because of because they were more or less between a rock and a hard place, and like, what are they supposed to do? Take Lassie with them and run away with Timmy. They more or less decided to do the right thing, that let's just leave the dog and the kid back in America. You never know, maybe eventually someday they would have met up with each other again. Okay. Okay, let's see who played the Martin family. Ruth Martin was played by Cloris Leachman from season 4 to season 5. June Lockhart, I'm not sure where she played when she played Ruth. Okay. Paul Martin, the fictional father, was played by the looks of it, a few guys. Two guys. First, John, spelled Jon, like the French way. C. Dop, from 57 to 58. Hugh really played him from 58 to 1964. So the Hugh really played the fictional father, Paul Martin. The rest of the time, the character was on there till the time that they decided to send Ruth, and the writers decided to send Ruth and Paul off to Australia. Rip the family apart. Okay, Timmy Martin was played by John Provost. John Provost, spelled the same way as the guy that played Timmy's foster father. was played by 9 different dogs. Because I think I heard over time of the series, whether each of the dogs that played Lassie passed away, so they had to recast the character, because mainly the show is all about Lassie. So if they didn't recast Lassie, they would have had to cancel the TV show Lassie. Okay. Let's move on from Ruth Martin, and since we know now why they had to leave Lassie and Timmy back in the States, I thought to put that notion that technically they had to more or less leave Timmy and Lassie behind because of those stipulations, because legally Timmy wasn't theirs, and with that quarantine law in Australia being that Lassie would have stayed in a kennel for 6 months, the Martins thought that would be a little traumatic for the pup, being in there that long, because maybe or maybe not that the puppy, the dog would have had rabies. I guess Australia's just making sure that there's not a rabies outbreak in the outback, the land down under, as they call Australia. Okay, let's move on that notion to number 5. To our first number 5 is, this mom's a little different because she is a doctor. Dr. Maureen Robertson. Yeah. We have our first mom that has an actual job. A little different for that time frame. For the stipulation, the stereotype from that time that moms are supposed to stay home and look after the house and the kids, and cook delicious meals. But obviously, Dr. Maureen Robertson is put aside the whole stereotype thing. She's obviously not a stereotypical mom. Okay, let's see why she's not a stereotypical mom from the 60s. Okay. Dr. Maureen Robertson is a fictional mother from the 1965 sci-fi TV show Lost in Space, about a lot of you sci-fi people heard of this show. This is the one that has been remade and has movies about it, and is still ongoing today in popular culture. Okay, Lost in Space. She was born on June 25th, 1958. Yeah, I know the years sound different for. It even got me confused. So, anyways, you'll even get confused when you hear how old she was when this started. Okay. Anyways, she was born in New York City, New York State, USA. So we're on the other side of the United States that she was born in. As Maureen Fitzpatrick. In 1965's Lost in Space series, she was Dr. Maureen I'll get it right. Dr. Maureen Robertson was the irrequescible 1960s space-age housewife. So this is a little different word from down here on Earth. They're from outer space. Combined with highly educated scientists, she is nurturing, compassionate, and calm, maternal anchor who balanced traditional domestic duties with a brilliant background in biochemistry. Dr. Maureen Robertson is married to Professor John Robertson. Together they have 3 children named Judy, Penny, and Will Robertson. You know, if you watch that's what the robot on that show is saying. Danger, danger, Will Robertson. That's who he's saying about. Obviously, maybe Will's getting into some danger there. Dr. Maureen Robertson and her family lived stranded in deep space aboard the spaceship Jupiter 2. Okay. Now we're going to get into how old she was. Technically, she's youngest mom out of this. Dr. Maureen Robertson was 7 years old when Lost in Space first aired on September 15, 1965. She was 10 years old when Lost in Space ended its series run. What the hell I wrote down? They ended. Okay. It ended on March 6, 1968. I erased my script. So yeah, she's the youngest mom from this. But I'll tell you why, because I had to look it up why she was youngest, because I was thinking, why is she having kids at 7 and 10 years old? Shouldn't she be enjoying her childhood life? Okay. She was 10 years old in March 6th when Lost in Space ended in March 6th. 1968. Is because Lost in Space is because Lost in Space is because the timeline is actually set in the future. So if you see Lost in Space, that's why it looks like she is a lot older than 7 and 10 years old. So she would be a lot older in the future. I think I read, yeah, she'd be a lot older. She'd be about, because I think I read when there's actual one from the 90s of Lost in Space, she was 43. So yeah, she would be. So that explains it. Why the time frames are off. Because it got me confusing. Thinking, why would she be having kids at 7 and 10? Because most kids at 7 and 10 haven't even had maturity yet. So that explains, because since it's a sci-fi show, and the writers set the show into the future, that she is not in the future. She's not 7 and 10 years old. She's like a lot older, maybe in her 20s, 30s. Okay, let's see who played the Robertsons. Okay. Maureen Robinson was played by June Lockhart. Yeah, she played the same actress that played. I swear we've seen her before. Yeah, she's the same one that played Ruth Martin in Lassie. And back to the Robinson family. The one that played her husband was Professor that played her husband, Professor John Robinson, was Guy Williams, the actor Guy Williams. Judy Robertson was played by Martria Christine Kirsta. And Will Robinson was played by Bill Yummy. And Penny Robertson was played by Angela Cartwright. We're gonna see that name, that actress's name, again in this video, because she played somebody else in another 1960s TV show. Okay, I'm gonna take a break and get a drink of something so I won't lose my voice. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Okay. I got myself some chocolate milk, so so I'm set to go. Yeah. Move on. What we left off with was Dr. Maureen Robertson from Lost in Space. Yeah, it was kind of confusing to me when I was doing the script and seeing her age. It's like, is that possible? And then got digging and looked, and then I understand that it was a futuristic TV program from the 1960s where they're showing that it's based on it being said in the future. Then I'll understand it, that she wasn't really 7 and 10. Okay. Okay. Let's move on from Dr. Maureen Robertson, our first mom that actually has a job. That she's not a stereotypical mom from that time frame. Well, then, so we'll move on to number 6. And number 6 is another one of the moms that are from the moms from the 1950s video that I made last season, in season 2, since we're in season 3, that we're gonna, as I say, see some familiar faces. And this next familiar face is in number 6, and it's Harriet Nelson. A lot of my classic TV watchers would recognize that name. Harriet Nelson was played herself, Harriet Nelson, on the Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet TV show. I guess it was kind of like, almost like, it's another show that has her name, bless her husband's name. They're not alive anymore. But I think they still have grandkids. Still is. Anyways, Harriet Nelson was born on July 18th, 1909. So she's a little bit older than the one that was born in 1910. She's a lot older than June Cleaver. Margaret. She's also older than Margaret Anderson, Ruth Martin, even the one we talked about, Dr. Maureen Robertson. Because since Harriet Nelson was born in 1909, so also she would have been, since she was born in 1909, she would have been a little kid when the Titanic disaster happened. She would have been 3 years old. Okay, yes. She was born in Des Moines, Iowa, USA. I think Iowa's a potato state. As Peggy Lou Snyder. So, Harriet Nelson, as if you watch the last year's video, the Mums from the 50s TV, Harriet Nelson is like our only mom from these 2 decades that was real. Okay. Harriet Nelson was a wit, sassy, bold personality, often portrayed as a bombshell of the family. But she was presented as loving and supportive wife and mother, yet also a woman who enjoyed her independence. So that's for the 2 decades she was in, the show was in, that was a little different for those time frames of having an independent woman. She wasn't a slave to the house. And had a sense of humor. You know what? You have to have a sense of humor in any decade. Harriet was married to Ozzie Nelson. And they had 2 sons named David and Ricky Nelson. Now, I think it's Ricky Nelson was the one that became a rock star. If I'm right. Because the Nelsons were one of the Hollywood's families that had multiple generations of people that family members in the business. I think one of their grandsons, I think I seen that is a rock star or actor or something. So that means that they're still going. Anyways, and okay, let's find out where they lived. Harriet and her family lived at 1822 Camano Arroyo Street, Los Angeles, California, USA. So we're back in California. Just like the 1950s from last year, were all over the board. But most of you're gonna see that they're in California. Okay. Let's see who played the Nelsons. Obviously, themselves. Ozzie, David, Ricky, and Harriet played themselves on the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. It reminds me of, but a lot of you probably remember the Osbournes. Ozzie and Sharon and the kids had their own TV show back in the 2000s. Early 2000s. Because I remember I was still in high school when they had it. When their show was still on. So the Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet remind me of that. That a real life family had their own TV show in a certain decade. Okay, let's move on from Harriet Nelson to, I think this might be our last mom that was from the 50s TV that's now in the 60s, and that is at number 7, and it's Kathy Williams. Kathy Williams is a fictional mother that's birth year is unknown. Trust me, I tried to find out when she was born, because I thought it would be a great idea so we know how old the moms were when their show started and ended. Okay, her birth year's unknown, and she was born as Kathy O'Hara, so she was Irish. She was born as Kathy O'Hara, so she's Irish. Kathy Williams is Danny's second wife. So if you remember from the moms from the 50s TV, Danny Thomas had remarried because his wife died off screen. Okay. Kathy is a widow that has one daughter named Linda. Kathy came into Danny's life as a nurse when his son Rusty fell ill with the measles. Can you believe that we have that coming back as the measles? Okay, and Danny hired Kathy, a young Irish nurse, to look after Rusty on an episode of Make Room for Daddy. It's also / the Danny Thomas show. Danny and Kathy became fast friends, and not surprisingly, Danny fell in love with Kathy, as did the kids. In season finale, the two became engaged and got married. After Kathy married Danny, she became a stepmom of 2 children. Kathy and her family live in Hollywood, California, USA. Okay, let's see who played the Williams family. Kathy and her family live in Hollywood, California, USA. That's what it said. Okay, we're finding out who played the Williams family. Kathy Williams was played by Marjorie Lloyd. Danny Williams was played by Danny Thomas. Danny Thomas show's named after him, so the show's premised around Danny Williams because he's dad. Okay, anyways, Rusty Williams was played by Rusty Hammer. Terry Williams was played by a couple of actresses. First by Sherry Jackson from 1953 to 1958, and Penny Parker from 1959 to 1960. So Sherry Jackson played her from the start of the show, and then Penny Parker played the role from the last half of the show. And last but not least, Linda O'Hara, Kathy's daughter from her late husband, was played by Angela Cartwright, the lady that played Penny Robertson in Lost in Space. See, I told you we would see Angela's name popping up again. But this time it's her playing Linda O'Hara in Make Room for Daddy / The Danny Thomas Show. Okay. Getting a mixture of mums here. And again, Kathy, since she's a nurse, she's like Dr. Maureen Robinson is a non-stereotypical mom because she has a job of her own as a nurse. So she's not a stereotypical mom that doesn't have a job, just stays at home, looks after the place and the kids. But she actually goes out to work because she has a job as a nurse. Just like Dr. Maureen Robinson is a doctor. We got a doctor and nurse on this video here. Okay, let's move on from Kathy Williams, sorry. To number 8 is Natalie Lane. Now, I don't think we've No, I don't think we've seen Kathy before. No. No, we haven't. So she's a newbie, like some of the women we're gonna see. Okay, Natalie Lane is a fictional mom from the 1960s. The Patty Duke Show. That was born in 1925 in Brooklyn Heights, New York State, USA. So we're going from California again to New York State. Back to New York State. Natalia Lane, his maiden name was never officially revealed on the show. Natalia Lane was effectively called Mimo by her kids. She served as the grounded, understanding matriarch of the Lane household in Brooklyn Heights. Natalie, I was right, it was Natalie after all. Natalie Lane was married to Martin Lane and together had 2 children, Patty and Ross Lane. But Natalie's cousin, Kathy Lane, moved in and became their second daughter. I was gonna need to take it in a family member. You see that it happens that some people have to step in and raise their cousins or their nieces or maybe their own siblings because of some reason why the family member's parents passed away, and they thought instead of letting that person go into foster care, they will just step up and take them in. And it's not in our first family we're gonna see that did that with their illness video that took a family member in and raised them like their own child. Okay, Natalie Lane and her family lived at 8 Ramson Street, Brooklyn Heights neighborhood of New York City, USA. Natalie Lane was 38 years old when the Patty Duke Show started on September 18th, 1963. And she was 41 years old when the Patty Duke Show series ended on April 27th, 1966. So she was in her late 30s when the Patty Duke Show started, and she was in her early 40s when the Patty Duke Show ended. Okay, let's see who played the Lane family. Patty and Kathy Lane was played by Patty Duke, which I read why they did that, because they had wrote that in the script that Patty and Kathy Lane look a lot like each other as cousins. Like they were like could be fraternal twins. So that's why they were played by the same actress, because they're supposed to look exactly alike. Martin Lane was played by William Sherlock. Natalie Lane was played by Jean Byron. And Ross Lane was played by Paul O'Keefe. So yeah. There you go. We learned a little bit of quite a bit of our first mom. That's from the 1960s. The show that started in the 60s and ended in the 60s. Natalie Lane. She seems like a good old mom. Okay, let's move on from Natalie Lane to our ninth mom, and that is Doris Martin. I don't think she's in relation to Ruth and her husband Paul. Okay, Doris Martin is a fictional mother from the Doris Day Show. That's a pretty good show. I've been watching it on Tubi. Okay, and she was born April 3rd, 1922. Oh, in the roaring 20s. In an unknown location as an unknown maiden name. I tried to look it up, it's not that easy. Oh. Doris Martin is a devoted, widowed mother of two sons, Billy and Toby Martin. Yeah, but in the start of the show, that her death, by the time the show has started, her husband has died. That's kind of a groundbreaking show for that time frame, to have to see a single mom raising two kids. Because I don't think you've really seen the type of show like that before. But then there's been a lot of groundbreaking shows through TV history that showed different things that we've never seen before. Okay, let's continue. Doris Martin relocates from the big city of New York City, New York State, to her father's rural ranch in Mill Valley, California, USA. Balancing her family with a quiet of the countryside. Yeah, because the start of the show, she's actually living back at her dad's. When I first started watching it, I thought it was her father-in-law, but it's her dad. Doris Martin's husband was never given a significant first name in the series. So it's Mr. Martin, I guess. Because Martin would be Doris's married name. Doris Martin was 46 years old when the Doris Day show started on September 24th, 1968. She was 51 years old when the Doris Day show ended on March 12th, 1973. So the Doris Day show started in the late 60s and stretched to the early 70s. It's probably possible that she might be she's probably a mom from the 70s TV, since her show stretched into the 70s. Okay, let's see who played the Martins. Doris Martin was played by Doris Day, as the show is named after is Doris Day, the actress. Billy Martin was played by Philip Brown. Toby Martin was played by Todd Starkey. And Doris' father was played by Denver Pyle. Okay, there's a little note I wrote down here. That it seemed a little interesting because there's the later season something happened. Billy, Toby, and Doris's father was written out by season 4 because the show was focusing on Doris's career in New York City. So yeah, I see. They more or less had it that she was. She worked at a magazine thing, a magazine company that she was called back to help out to reorganize the current magazine. It's actually a good classic TV show. It actually has a very interesting theme song called Que Sera, Sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's ours will see. Que Sera, Sera. That's an old song. And I think it's actually Doris Day that sings the theme song to her show, The Doris Day Show. Okay, let's move on from Doris Martin. It's hard to say. Maybe Doris's late husband. Doris Martin's late husband might be related to Ruth Martin's husband. It's hard to say. You never know. Small world. Okay. Let's move on from Doris Martin to number 10. And a lot of you classic TV watchers would recognize this name. Samantha Stephens. Samantha Stephens was a fictional mom from Bewitched. Yeah, she's her first witch, but not her only one in this video. That was born in 1864. Yeah, she was born in the 18th century. The middle 18th century. In Lismont, England, without a surname. Because I found out, I was trying to figure out why she doesn't have a surname. Is because, I guess, since she's a witch, she doesn't need a surname. But it's kind of weird because there's another witch on here. She does have a maiden name. Maybe it's a family tradition of Samantha's family. That side of the family where they just rather not have a last name. Kind of hard to do bills or get a box number if you don't have a last name. Okay, let's see what kind of mom she is. Samantha Stephens is a warm, nurturing, and devoted mother. A powerful witch who gave up her magic to live a normal mortal life. Wouldn't that be nice to have magic? She skillfully balances her traditional 1960s suburban homemaker role while raising her and her husband Darren Stephens magical children. So yeah, Tabitha and Adam Stephens. So Tabitha and Adam have inherited their mummy's magical abilities. So none of them turned out to be immortal like their daddy, Darren. Okay. Because, you know, she's married to Darren Stephens, the mortal. In the first episode of the Bewitched, she told him, do you think that's something you bring around on the first date, that she's a witch. He told her prove it. She proved it by lighting the lighter. He was kind of surprised, but he wasn't really big on the whole magic thing. Okay. Let's find out how old she was when the show started and ended. Okay. She was 100 years old when Bewitched first aired on September 17th, 1964, the year my mom was born. And she was 108 years old when Bewitched ended on March 25th, 1972. So you could tell Samantha was the one robbing the cradle between her and Darren. Okay. Well, let's see. But she's not our oldest mom. I won't tell you who's our oldest mom yet. She's coming in a little while. Okay, let's see who played the Stevenses. Samantha Stevens was played by Elizabeth Montgomery. Darren Stevens was played by two actors. First, Dick York from 1964 to 1969. Now, I'll tell you why Dick York left the series. There's a reason. Dick York stopped playing the first Darren because of a serious back injury. He sustained while working on the film. They came to Condorcet in 1959. And he suffered through the pain quite a bit through the series, till the point he couldn't do it anymore. And it was time to quit. Happy. And the second was played by Dick Sargent. Now, Dick Sargent played Darren for the rest of the series. Okay. Tabitha Stevens was played by both Aaron and Diane Murphy. I guess they were twins? No, they were sisters. Okay. But Diane Murphy only played Tabitha in the early series episodes. I guess her sister Erin played Tabitha in the later episodes. And there's Tabitha Stevens spun off from Bewitched, but that was a short-lived series. Okay, her brother Adam Stevens, Tabitha's brother Adam Stevens, was played by both David and Greg Lawrence. I think they were twins, because there's some type of law about not letting a child actor act for long periods of time like adult actors do. It's a law that's named after another child actor. I heard about it once before when my grandma told me. Anyways, continue on. Phyllis Stevens, Darren's mom, Tabitha and Adam's grandma on his dad's side, was played by Mabel Albertson. And Frank Stevens, Darren's father, Tabitha and Adam's grandpa on Darren's side, was played by 3 actors. First by Robert, bless you, that's not his name, she sneezed. Robert Bonning. Second played by Phil Barcelo. And third and last played by Roy Roberts. Bernice, Samantha's dad, so and the other grandpa, Tabitha and Adams, was played by Bernice Evans. And Endora, okay, we just lost the actor. I thought I wrote the name down. Here, I'll look it up. Agnes Moorehead. I don't know why that erased Agnes's name. Which I think I read once that, or seen somewhere, that Agnes Moorehead was from a old Hollywood royal family. Surely her family stretches maybe from the silent film era. Okay. So, Agnes Moorehead played Endora. The other grandma of, Endora, the other grandma of Tabitha and Adam. Samantha's mom. That's Endora. I remember Endora's the one that keeps poor Darren on his toes. She, Endora, if I remember, is not too keen of her daughter marrying a mortal. I guess she's not into the whole interracial thing of witch and mortal. Okay, let's move on from Samantha Stevens, our first witch, but not only witch, from the 60s, to number 11, and it's Lily Munster. Lily Munster is a fictional mother from the Munsters. that was born in 1905. No, 1605, I mean. In Transylvania. Now is part of Romania now, as Lily Dracula, because she's the daughter of Count Dracula, one of the daughters, Count Dracula. So she's born all the way back in the 16th century. There's a lot of different historical monarchs ruling all over Europe and parts of the world. In England, it'd be the time that the Tudors started ruling, and the Stuarts in Scotland. Okay. Lily is the matriarch of the Munsters, an ultimate gothic suburban mom. Obviously, she is not a normal mommy like Samantha, like somebody else we're going to be talking about in a bit. Well, I guess Samantha Stevens would be normal because she sometimes uses her magic. And the Gothic mom's not really a normal thing for that time frame, I guess. Typical thing. Stereotypical thing. Anyways, while she is out widely a century-old vampire, and is one of the daughters of Count Dracula. Yes, because Count Dracula, you think of it, has lots of daughters. And if you watched when I first started this channel, all the way back in season 1, I did the Universal Monsters. We talked about one of Count Dracula's daughters.
What's on you?
Bird.
No,
Oh, it's a foot bracelet thing I had for years. That would be perfect. You want to say hi?
Hi.
That's my roommate. Okay, let's continue. So yeah, Count Dracula has lots of daughters, not only Lily. Okay, anyways. She is international, loving, devoted, and grounded. She essentially acts as the voice of reason and glue holding her spooky household together. I guess you have to when her husband Herman and her dad get into wacky antics.
No.
Yeah. Lily Munster is married to a Frankenstein monster named Herman Munster. This is kind of weird. A Frankenstein monster marries Count Dracula's daughter. A little weird, but that's not as weird up now. They have a son that it is a young werewolf named Eddie Munster. Yeah, a little weird. I had to look it up that the reason why Eddie is somehow Eddie turned out to be a werewolf after his parents his mom is a vampire and his dad is a Frankenstein monster, is because the werewolf trait runs through his mom's side. I'm thinking sometime exploring the Munsters family tree. That would make a good video for this channel. Okay, and they are guardians and primarily parental figures of their niece, Marilyn Munster. Marilyn Munster his mom is Lily Munster's sister. Now, Eddie's not the only weird part of the family. Is Marilyn's immortal, but she's half vampire. She gets the vampire from her mom because her mom is one of Count Dracula's daughters. Marilyn's dad is the one that's mortal. So instead of taking the vampire trait, she ended up coming out as mortal. I think that's why they, through the series, that they bug Marilyn about her appearance, because she's the oddball out of the family, because she has the mortal trait instead of a vampire trait. That's why they always call her she's ugly and hideous and not attractive, when she's actually pretty attractive, and she picks up quite a bit of guys that are pretty attractive themselves. I guess they say beauty is skin deep. What about? I said that word and she shake, didn't she? Anyways, okay. Lily Munster and her family lives at 1313 Mockingbird Lane in the fictional Los Angeles suburb of Mockingbird Heights, California, USA. That's a little different than Brooklyn Heights. We got Mockingbird Heights. The house they live in is quite unique. Okay. Lily Munster was 359 years old when the Munsters started, airing on September 24th, 1964, and she was 361 years old when the Munsters ended its series run on May 12th, 1966. So she was she was a 300 middle-aged woman. But she was a 300 and early 360-year-old woman. So she was like in her late 350s when the show started, in her 360s when it ended. I guess it tells you something that if you're a vampire, you live forever. Unless you get staked. Okay, let's see who played the Munsters. Lily Munster was played by Yvonne De Carlo. Herman Munster was played by Fred Gwynne. Fred Gwynne is in a lot of shows like Car 54, Where Are You? And he played the judge in My Cousin Vinny. And there's probably a few other shows under his belt that he did. Okay. Grandpa, in brackets, Count Dracula. That's Lily's dad. Was played by Al Lewis. There's, speaking about Car 54, Where Are You? Is a good classic show. Al Lewis is actually an episode of that, where he's trying to get some old Jewish lady to come out of her house so they can knock it down. And she wouldn't budge and budge and budge because she's waiting for her dog to come home. Because I think it's 3 or 5 weeks, every 3 or 5 weeks, the pup comes home, but they eventually find out Fred Gwynne and Snooty and Muldoon, the characters, the two cops on there, to find out that this lady's dog has multiple lives. Actually, she has 2 families. The old lady and the old guy and his grandson. They eventually, the old lady and the old guy come together because Muldoon and Tootie kind of do a matchmaking thing. More or less a happy ending. Okay, let's continue on. Eddie Munster. Eddie Munster was played by Butch Patrick. And Marilyn was played by 2 actresses. First played by Beverly Owen. I don't know what that was about. Stash said chirping at something. Anyways, Beverly Owen played Marilyn during the first 13 episodes of the first season. And the second played by Pat Priest for the remainder of the series. You actually don't see...
That's what she's chirping.
Stash is chirping at a bird.
Well, I didn't want to disturb you.
Okay. Anyways, my thought about Lily, about the Munsters in total. Yeah, you don't really see the Munsters have TV like movies made of them ever since their cancellation. We just said that in 66. More than you see this next family that's coming up, this next lady that's for this family, the Addams family. Because you see more movies from that classic show than you see from the Munsters. That would be something for them to look at. But yeah, the Munsters are actually is all based on the Universal monsters, because you got Count Dracula, you got Count Dracula's daughter, a daughter. You got the Wolfman. And there's you see, there's an episode in later seasons that there's the Phantom of the Opera. They have a witch, but she's not actually a Universal monster.
She is dead.
I heard that. Igor is in there. This is the episode when Grandpa and Herman get into trouble. Because the cops are thinking that they're going around scaring the crap out of everybody in Mockingbird Heights. But it's really it's wax dummies that looks like them. So yeah, so those are the monsters are based on Universal monsters. It's not all the Universal monsters, but the main cast is you see the Count Dracula, the Frankenstein's monster, Dracula's daughter, a daughter. The man has multiple children. The Wolfman. Yeah, the only one out of the main cast that's not Universal monster is Marilyn. Well, she's kind of half and half. She's kind of half Universal monster, and she's kind of half just mortal. But she doesn't show her Universal part, because she's mortal. Okay, let's move on from Lily to our next witch. And that's at number 12, and it's Morticia Addams. Morticia Addams is a fictional mom from the Addams family. You know, they're creepy and they're spooky. You know, they're spooky. The Addams family. TV show. She was born on April 15th, 1930. In Salem, Massachusetts, USA, as Morticia Frump. Well, Salem sounds great because since she's a witch, And Salem is actually notorious for the Salem witch trials. And actually, if you watch the Addams Family TV series and some of the movies of Addams Family, one of them, she actually mentions that she had a ancestor that was an accused witch, and that was executed for it because of her witchcraft. Obviously, she was a witch if she played witchcraft, I guess. Morticia Addams is the embodiment of a devoted and loving and deeply unconventional matriarch. I guess just like Lily and I guess Samantha. She intervents traditional 1950s and 60s suburban motherhood for being fiercely protective of her and her husband Gomez Addams' children, Wednesday and Pugsley Addams. They do in a movie of the Addams Family, they do have a third kid named Puberty. I know, it's not a great name to name your kid. But Wednesday and Pugsley are the only two kids that Gomez and Morticia have in the 1960s TV show. They don't have the third kid, not till years later. Actively encourage their matriarch and stress, celebrating all these dark and unusual. It is entirely possible that Morticia Addams could be a witch, just because she heavily associated with witchcraft through her exact supernatural status and a status fluctuates depend on adaptation you watch. I kind of figured it kind of with a Mark in that one movie that about her having an ancestor that was a witch in Salem, that I kind of figured, could it be possible that she was a witch? Yeah. I looked it up and it's like, it's possible that Morticia Addams was a witch. Okay. Morticia Addams and her family live at 0000, that's 3 zeros, 1 Cemetery Lane at an unnamed town that is possibly in New Jersey, USA. So we're going to the back to the Eastern Board of the United States. Morticia Addams was 34 years old when the Addams Family TV show debuted on September 18th, 1964. There's a lot of classic TV shows coming out the year my mom was born in 64. And she was 36 years old when the Addams Family ended its series run on April 8, 1966. But then I guess there's a lot that ended in 64 too. Okay. Think of Morticia. The name Morticia is close to the name Mortician. Maybe she is a mortician too, because she does have a cemetery in the backyard, her and her family. Okay. Let's find out who played the Addams Family. Good show. Morticia Addams was played by Carolyn Jones. That's the original lady that played Morticia Addams. There's been lots of actresses that played Morticia Addams in different adaptations of the Addams Family. Okay, her husband, Gomez Addams, was played by John Astin. He was the guy that originally played Gomez. Uncle Fester was played by Jackie Coogan. I heard once Jackie Coogan is a child actor. I think that's what that law is named after. Is after Jackie Coogan. You know, the law that prevents child actors for being on screen too long, or long periods of time. Okay, let's see who played Lurch. Lurch was played by Ted Cassidy. Wednesday Addams was played by Lisa Laurie. And Pugsley Addams was played by Ken Weatherwax. Grandmama Gomez, that's Gomez and Uncle Fester's mom. I thought for years that was Morticia's mom, but it's not. And she was played by Blossom Rock. Cousin It, spelled with 2 T's, was played by Felix Silla. Cousin It is actually a supernatural being, and he's a relation on Gomez and Fester's side. Okay. Thing was played by also Ted Cassidy, the one that played Lurch, who operated several hand with his own. Huh. And Hester Frump, Granny Frump, Morticia Addams' mom, so was played by Margaret Hamilton. If you watched Wizard of Oz, she is the one that plays the Wicked Witch of the West. She actually reprised her role as the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz on an episode of Sesame Street. But they had to pull that episode. PBS had to pull that episode because a lot of upset parents wrote in and said their little ones were so frightened of Margaret Hamill had played the Wicked Witch of the West on Sesame Street. It's one of those episodes that is unseen episodes that some shows had to pull because of certain reasons. I tried to look up who played Grandpa Frump, but obviously he's a character that's not seen, but they talk about. The Addams Family house is quite interesting. Is just like the Monsters home. And unfortunately, you see, it's the only place that ever has storms around it. And people are too scared to go to walk right into it. It also has booby traps. It's like the Addams Family house has a booby trap at its front door when you pull the doorbell. And it's actually it's a museum. It says it right in the song, the theme song of the Addams Family. It's kind of a catchy theme song to sing, too. I think it's a good theme song to have during Halloween. I know that's like months away from now, but then because it's quite a catchy, interesting song. And the original and the classic TV show of the Addams Family is a pretty good show. We actually been watching it on a streaming channel lately, right, babe?
Yep.
No. I turned the AC on. That's why you're cold. I turned the central air on. So it was getting hot. Okay.
Oh, you turned that on, you mean?
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Now, from Morticia Addams to this woman, she's from all the way back in the Stone Age. And she's at number 13. And that's Wilma Flintstone. Wilma!
I didn't have my cake. I waited to have it.
Wilma Flintstone is a fictional mother from the Flintstones. You know, the Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones. that was born in the prehistoric era of the Stone Age in the fictional prehistoric city of Bedrock, USA. As Wilma Slaghoople. Wilma Flintstone is the irrequiescible suburban marginal figure of the Stone Age. As the fictional mom, she serves as a level-headed, nurturing, pragmatic counterweight to her husband, Fred Flintstone's impulsive, bumbling antics while effectively raising their daughter, Pebbles. Isn't that a cute name for a baby? Wilma was consistently portrayed as 43 years old throughout the series of the Flintstones. But by the time Flintstones debuted on September 30th, 1960, she would have had really been, drum roll, 9,098, 40 years old. She's our oldest mom on this list. She portrays all of them because she's dated back to the prehistoric age. By the time the Flintstones ended its series run on April 1st, April Fool's Day, 1966, she would have really been, drumroll, 9,998 and let's try this. 9,098, 34 years old. So really, she's older than all of them. Wilma Flintstone and her family lives at 1313 Cobblestone Way in Bedrock, USA. Next door to their good friends, the Rubbles. You know Betty and Barney? Yep. And bam, bam, bam. You remember, Barney and Fred, once in a while, they get into fights and then they make up and then they're friends again. But it's not very often Betty and Wilma get into arguments. Wonder how many people thought that it was a joke when the Flintstones ended on April Fool's Day. Obviously it wasn't. We actually have a couple episode or two of the Flintstones on DVD. Okay, let's see who played the Flintstones and the Rubbles. Because at one point they all became a great big Stone Age family in later on when Bam Bam and Pebbles got married and started having their own little bit Stone Age babies. Okay, Wilma was voiced by Jean Vander Pla. Fred Flintstone was voiced by Alan Reed. Barney Rubble was voiced by Mel Blanc. A lot of people that watched cartoons would know who Mel Blanc is, because he's the guy that sings You're the Me One, Mr. Grinch. Betty Rubble was voiced by two actresses. First by B. Ben Adert from season 1 to 4. Jerry, spelled with a G, Johnson. She played her from season 5 to 6. Pebbles Flintstone was voiced by Jean Vanderpelt. The same one that voiced Wilma. Bam Bam, Bam 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 Rubble was voiced by Don Messick. And we can't forget little Dino. Dino was voiced by Mel Blanc. If anybody's wondering who voiced Hoppity, I don't know.
Okay, because I was just going to ask about him.
And if you're wondering who voiced the baby Saber-tooth tiger that Fred hucks out the door at the end, I don't know, because I guess he was a non-voiced character. But you could hear at the end when the cat locks Fred out the door. After the cat jumps right back in the window. Okay, let's move on to Fred's mother-in-law. You know, the lady, she gets on Fred's nerves, and he says, I love my mother-in-law, I love my mother-in-law, I love my mother-in-law, I love my mother-in-law. And it's Pearl Slaghoople, and that was Wilma's mom, and it was voiced by two actresses. First by Verna Felton. She voiced Pearl from 1962 to 1963, so a year, not long. The second lady that voiced her was Janet Weldo. From 1963 to 1966, so Janet voiced Mrs. Slaghoople for quite a bit of time. And the Flintstones, like the Addams Family, they have had movies made of them. There was the Flintstones movie, and Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas. We got both of them. And then there's a few Christmas movies like the Flintstones Christmas Carol. We have that. You would know if you've seen the episode I made about me and Anita's Christmas movies. Yeah. And there's lots of other Flintstones Christmas movies out there. There's even the one that Barney and Fred help out Santa Claus, because Santa Claus happened to while he was on the Flintstones roof, he slipped off and twisted his ankle. So instead of disappointing all those good boys and girls all over the world, Fred and Barney stepped in and helped Santa out. Fred became Santa Claus, since he had to be Santa Claus anyways for some orphanage thing that he had to go to. And Barney was Fred's elf. They did have to make a pit stop up north at the North Pole to get restocked, because they winded him into a storm and all the presents disappeared because they got blown out. Like the bag got knocked out of the sleigh. And there's lots more. There's another Christmas movie of the Flintstones when they end up adopting a little boy. And that's the Christmas movie that shows the Flintstones and the Rubbles' grandchildren. Pebbles and Bam Bam's son and daughter. They have fraternal twins. And there's a few spin-offs of the Flintstones. Flintstones Kids, Pebbles and Bam Bam have some. I have a spin-off. Yeah. And there's lots more movies out there. That I think the Flintstones, since it went off the air in the 60s, in 66, it's been reprised over and over again. There's even there was even one years ago that it was a crossover between the WWE and the Flintstones, where the prehistoric version of Vincent Kennedy McMahon, before the whole scandal thing, had started whole prehistoric wrestling thing. Well, actually, it wasn't him. It was Fred and Barney that tried to do it, and then he bought it. Right?
How many do you have left?
Oh. Okay. I'm on for going to 14. 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay. Okay, as I say before, Nate asked how many I had before the one that I'm coming up to. After the one that I'm coming up to, I have left. Before that, I was saying that Flintstones have been prized a lot. Just like the Addams Family. This because we got a lot of classic classic TV shows. Like the Jetsons. I know they're not from this decade. They're probably going to be for next seasons. The Mothers for the 70s one. That they've been prized over and over. Because they do it because it's a popular culture, and it's been used over and over and over. Like for you sci-fi fans, like Star Trek. There's it's the original Star Trek with William Shatner, and a fellow Canadian. When that original one went off the air, it's been redone over and over and over and over again, because it's a popular culture that especially nowadays with streaming channels, a lot of these old classic TV shows are on there. And they're getting a chance to be introduced to new generations and new audiences that wouldn't have probably have seen them before. Because you remember way back in the 90s, when it was cable was the biggest thing. If you missed one of your episodes of your favorite show, it was gone forever. But now, with streaming channels, you're watching episodes of your favorite show you never seen before. The only way back then that you could see your episodes of your favorite show, if you, in like 90s, we had like VHSs. I think since that was invented, you could record it. Me and Anita used to record a lot of wrestling because we would be out of town the day that SmackDown or Raw was on. And if we missed that one episode, then it was gone. But now that those shows are on Netflix, we can watch those episodes that we probably had missed. Thank God for streaming channels. Okay, let's move on from our oldest mom, Wilma Flintstone, to number 14. And that is Voice of Mother. I'll explain to you why it's the voice of Mother. She's kind of different, really different out of these ladies. Because there's a reason. Because she's deceased. Voice of Mother is a fictional mother named Gladys Crabtree. Not to get confused with the chick on Bewitched. That's Gladys Kravitz on Bewitched. This is Gladys Crabtree. She's from the My Mother the Car. Was born on January 22nd, 1909 in Valley City, North Dakota, USA as Gladys Brown. I didn't figure out what year that Mrs. Crabtree died. She probably died. It probably died way before the show started. That's what it says. She's had passed away before the show started. Anyways, she was born. Bless you. That's not where she was born, and she sneezed again. Okay, Gladys was born in Valley City, North Dakota, USA, as Gladys Brown. Now, as I say, Mrs. Brown must have died, Mrs. Crabtree must have died sometime way before the series started. Okay. The voice mother on the 60s sitcom My Mother the Car belonged to the fictionalized, overbearing, and domineering version of procrastinatus deceased mother Gladys Crabtree. She had been reincarnated as a dilapidated, bright red 1928 Porter touring car. Only way Gladys Crabtree can communicate to her son Dave Crabtree from the great beyond. Huh? From the great beyond is through the car's radio dash. That'd be creepy. All of a sudden you're walking by it and you hear a voice coming out of it. Gladys Crabtree has one son named David Crabtree. Gladys Crabtree has a daughter-in-law named Barbara Crabtree. Gladys has 2 grandchildren from her son and daughter-in-law. The names are Cindy and Randy Crabtree. The bright red 1928 Porter touring car, the Gladys Crabtree Spirit, it is parked at the suburban home of her son Dave Crabtree and his family in Los Angeles, California, USA. Okay, let's find out who all played the Crabtrees. Gladys Crabtree was voiced by Ann Sothern, and Dave Crabtree was played by Jerry Van Dyke. I think that's Dick Van Dyke's son. No, brother. Am I right? Yeah, that is Dick Van Dyke's brother, younger brother. Jerry's not alive anymore. Okay, let's see. Cindy Crabtree was played by Cindy L. Backer. Randy Crabtree was played by Randy Whipple. And Barbara Crabtree was played by Maggie Price. Okay. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna get my charger, otherwise it's gonna... I won't be able to finish this. I'll be back. Hi, I'm back. Okay. So we left off with knowing who played who. Barbara Crabtree was played by Maggie Pierce. That's a little different, boy, it's a mother, different concept to have a deceased mom, speaking to their family from beyond the grave. And the whole idea of the show that obviously she won't let go even from beyond the grave. So, okay. Okay, now let's move on from Voice of Mom. Obviously, it sounds like a paranormal show because she's reincarnated into an antique automobile. It'd be like being reincarnated into a Model T. Okay. So from that point, we'll move on from Voice of Mom to number 15, which is Julia Baker. Julia Baker is a fictional mother from 1968 NBC sitcom Julia, that was born on, I think, July 17th, 1935, in somewhere in the United States, as an unknown maiden name. Julia Baker was a loving, devoted, and modern single mother for that era. Following the death of her husband in the Vietnam War, she raised her young son, Corey, with grace, independence, and intelligence while balancing a professional career as a registered nurse. So we have two nurses. We have Kathy Williams, the Irish nurse, and now we have Julia Baker. Actually, we have a total of 3 women that go out to work for a living. Something a little different for that time frame. But then I guess since Julia is a widow, I guess she would have to go out and make some ends meet because her husband is not there anymore because he died. Julia and her husband Corey lives in an apartment building in Los Angeles, California, USA. So we're back in California. Julia Baker was 33 years old when Julia TV show started on September 17th, 1968. And she was 36 years old when Julia TV show ended in March 23rd, 1971. So it was another mom that's TV show spanned into the 70s. So it is a possibility that next season when we explore the mothers of the 70s TV, we're going to see a lot of these ladies that shows expanded into the 1970s. And some of these women, so far we notice their ages are around the 30s. We do have some middle-aged gals. So, okay, so let's see who played Julia and Corey, her son. Julia Baker was played by Diana Carroll, and Corey Baker was played by Mark Kopage. That's a small family. Just the 2 of them in the family since Papa died. Okay. It was another show that portrays a single mom, just like the Doris Day show portrayed a single mom. Showing single mom shows back then would be very groundbreaking, because it was never shown on TV before. Okay, let's move on from Julia. But before we move on to Julia, there's even today there's still groundbreaking shows that hitting that fourth wall. Showing that about taboo subjects that were no before this show on TV. there's, because today you see, today in the 2020s, we see shows about homosexuals and there's transgenders and different shows that more or less break that fourth wall to challenge that it's okay to show something that's taboo. And I do think that's a good idea for a video on my channel. We could talk about stuff that were shown on TV that were taboo at one time. Like us. A bit single showing having a show about single moms were taboo, and there's a lot of shows that portray about a single mom, like One Day at a Time or Doris Day, Julia. Hell, even Gloria Bunker Stivic got her own show. Is short-lived. It was called Gloria. It showed a single mom concept. That the fact that the woman has to start all over again, whether it's a divorce, or the guy passed away, like Julia and Doris Martin's husbands had passed away. That's the whole. They based the whole concept of what happened to the husband. Did they divorce, or was it he died? And maybe the chance she'll find love again. Okay. Let's move on and from Julia to number 16. Yeah, so we're moving on from Julia Baker to number 16, Eve Hubbard. Eve Hubbard was a fictional mom from Mother-in-Law that was born on April 30th, 1908. Oh, she's she's another one from the early 19th century. She was born in Mill Valley, California, as Eve Windsor. You know, like the Royal House of Windsor. Eve Hubbard is primarily known as the sarcastic, quick-witted matron and mother-in-law from the 1960s NBC sitcom. It is actually called Mother-in-Law. She was an intelligent, meddling, wisecrack mother-in-law whose consent interfered in her daughter's young marriage, drove the show's comic premise. So I guess it's based on the whole idea that this young woman and guy had married young, and they have a meddling mother-in-law. In a bit, there's another one from the show we're gonna see in a little bit. Eve Hubbard was married to Herbert Hubbard. Sounds like it goes together, Herbert Hubbard. And they had a daughter together named Susie Hubbard Bell, spelled B-U-L-L-L. Spelled actually B-U-E-L-L. That married Jerry Bell, B-U-E-L-L. They had twins named Joey and Hilby Bell. Spelled B-U-E-L-L. The last name. Eve Hubbard and her family lives at 1805 Ridgewood Drive, Hollywood, California, USA. Eve Hubbard was 59 years old when mother-in-law started on September 10th, 1967. So this is the late 1960s. She was 61 years old when mother-in-law ended on April 13th, 1961. So it's later, the last half of the 1960s. 1969, I mean. Let's see who played. So we see her at the last half of the mother-in-law TV show that she is in her early 60s. And she's, in the start of it, she's at the last of her middle ages. So it technically see her become the last season of Mother-in-Law. They we see her become a senior citizen. I think if I looked, there wasn't many seasons of Mother-in-Law. Probably low ratings, maybe. This is usually a killer of any show. Okay. Let's see who played the Hubbards family. Eve Hubbard was played by Eve Arden. Herbert Hubbard was played by Herbert Rubley. Susie Hubbard Bell, this is the weird spelling of Bell as B-U-E-L-L, was played by Deborah Wally. Jerry Bell, B-U-E-L-L, was played by Jerry Fogel, and the twins, Joey and Hilby Bell, B-U-E-L-L, was played by a uncredited, unidentified babies. Probably if the series had lasted longer, they might have put it in the credits. Okay, let's move on from Eve Hubbard to the other mother-in-law in this program, the mother-in-law. And she's at 17, and her name is Kay Bell, B-U-E-L-L, that weird spelling of Bell. Kay Bell is a fictional mom from the mother-in-law that was born on November 20th, 1925. So she's a little bit younger than Eve. A couple of decades younger. In Cleveland, Ohio, USA, as Catherine Gloria Balota. I read his Italian name. Kay Bell, B-U-E-L-L, was flamboyant or protective theatrical mother of Italian descent, as they said. She was known for being an unenthusiastic, lazy housewife who meddled in her son Jerry Bell's marriage and frequently used Italian phrases. Probably "Mamma Mia!" Kay Bell was married to Roger Bell. And they have one son named Jerry Bell that is married to Susie Hubbard. Susie and Jerry have fraternal twins named Joey and Hilby Bell, as I mentioned before. Kay Bell and her family lives next door to the Hubbard family at 1807 Ridgewood Drive, Hollywood, California, USA. But in the show, the Bell family house address was never mentioned in the script. That's right, because it said the Hubbards, when I looked it up, it said the Hubbards address of 1805, and I thought, that's a little weird for a whole neighborhood to have the exact same address for a house. Must be a crowded house. So I looked on Google, asked the right questions, and because I figured that if the Hubbard's house is 1805, across the street would have to be 1806, and then next door where the Bells are would be 1807. You get it? Because in reality, that's how it is in real life. That's how it's supposed to be, so that when you get your mail delivered or emergency services could at least find you. Or somebody's trying to visit you, needs to know your address. Well, if you look at classic TV, there's little quirks in that there's some things that are never said. More or less, in this, you just had in this show, the mother-in-law, you just have to guess, you assume of the on your own of the neighborhood. That's why I thought the Bells would have to live at 1807 instead of in the exact same address as the Hubbards, because they lived next door to the Hubbards. So, but they just come and go between each other's houses. Okay, let's move on to let's learn who all played the Bell family. Oh wait, first, before that, let's find out how old Kay Bell was during the series, start to end. Kay Bell was 42 years old when the Mother-in-Law TV show aired on September 10th, 1967. And she was 44 years old when the Mother-in-Law TV series ended in April 1969. Kay was still in her middle ages when the TV series ended. And she's quite younger than Eve Hubbard in the series. Because I have quite a bit of age gaps between Eve and Kay. Okay. Okay, let's see. Who all played the Bell family now? Kay Bell was played by Kay Ballard. Roger Bell was played by two actors. First, Roger C. Carmel in season 1. Richard Deacon in season 2. And the final season. Yeah, season 2 was the final season. It didn't last very long. Well, now, even if you don't, your TV series didn't last long, you still get DVDs for people to watch, or there's it winds up on a streaming channel. Just for a whole new audience. Okay, let's see who played the kid, the son and the daughter-in-law and the grandkids. Jerry Bell was played by Jerry Fogel, as we found out with Eve before. Susie Hubbard Bell was played by Deborah Wiley, Eve and Hubbard's kid. Okay, the grandchildren, Joey and Hilby Bell, was played by, as I said, uncredited and unidentified babies. Okay. We're almost done. Okay, or says for us to have two women on this one, to have two women that on one show that lived by each other. Okay, let's move on to our last mother from the 60s TV. And she's at number 18, and that's Barbara Hubbard Douglas. Barbara Hubbard Douglas is a fictional mother from My Three Sons. Bless you. My roommate's sneezing her head off. Oh, that's sounds like a good classic TV show. Not Sneeze Your Brains though. My Three Sons. I think I found it on a streaming channel today. I was trying to finish this. Okay. Barbara from My Three Sons that was born on October 17th, 1926. Oh, another woman from the roaring 20s. In an unknown location as Barbara Harper. Barbara Harper Douglas was an irrequiescent ideal 1960s to 70s TV mother. Oh, so okay. She's from both decades, 60s and 70s. She was written as sweet, loving, patient, dedicated, functional, as a warm maternal stepmom to Stephen Douglas's three sons, named Mike, Robbie, Richard, nicknamed Chip Douglas. As the second wife of widower Steve Douglas, so yeah, his wife has passed away. He's a warm, caring, maternal presence to the family, balance domestic sweetness with deeply dedicated approach to blending her family. Barbara Harper Douglas has a daughter named Dorothy Ann, nicknamed Dodie Harper. From her late first husband. I couldn't figure out what her late first husband's name was. When I went to look for her daughter Dorothy Ann's birth name, and it came up with Harper, so be weird if she married a cousin. Oh well, it happens. Barbara Harper Douglas, his husband Steve, adopted a fourth son named Ernie Thompson. That was before they had gotten married. Barbara Harper Douglas and her family lives at 837 Mill Street in the fictional Midwestern town of Bryant Park, North Hollywood, California, USA. So, Barbara Harper Douglas was 34 years old when My Three Sons debuted on September 29, 1960. And she was 46 years old when My Three Sons ended on April 13, 1972. So, I guess, next season when we do Mothers of the 70s TV, we're gonna see Barbara again, and probably a few new faces, because as I say, some TV shows start in one decade and expand to the next. Okay. So by the looks of it, Steve has 4 sons, but one's adopted. So there's a total of 5 kids. Yeah. Let's see who all played the Douglas family. Barbara Harper Douglas was played by Beverly Garland, and Steve Douglas was played by Fred McMurray. Mike Douglas was played by Tim Considine. Robbie Douglas was played by Don Grady. Richard Chip, as a nickname, Douglas was played by Stanley Livingston. Ernie Thompson and Douglas, aka Douglas, was played by Barry Livingston. And Dorothy Ann Dodie Harper. Okay, again, we have lost who she played. Who played her? Okay. The one that played Dorothy Ann Dodie Harper, later Douglas, on My Three Sons, was a former child actress named Dawn Lynn. Okay. Now since we know who all played the family, there's a little thing here. In later seasons, Mike and Robbie Douglas, the older stepsons of Barbara Harper Douglas, did get married. Okay. Hopefully you enjoyed this little memory down going into the 1960s part of TV history with the moms part. If you did, like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment. And don't forget to ring the bell. Sometime next month, month is coming up. I am planning on doing the sequel to the spin-off of this, Mothers of the 60s TV, the spin-off. Their husbands, the fathers of the 60s TV, and so we'll learn a little bit about the hubbies of these ladies. It's actually probably a lot less, because some of, like, Doris and Julia didn't have husbands because they died, so they'd be the ones that did have a husband. Okay. And there's probably going to be a few more videos in June. They'll tickle your fancy. Still have sometime we will I will give you do that video about the electric monarchies through Asian history. So for now, I will say goodbye and peace out. As we say in the 1960s. I will say goodbye and have a good night. Goodbye.